Frankly, out of all the PC handhelds that have come out in the last year, there's one in particular that I kinda straight up forgot existed, that being the actually quite cool Zotac Zone. The Zotac Zone in of itself isn't that interesting. It was one of the very first handhelds to be announced with an OLED display before that became more commonplace among PC handhelds as a real differentiating factor amongst the current crop of handhelds, and it still maintains at least being relatively more unique than the average PC handheld. But its specs for the time were par for the course. It was an 8840U, 16GB of memory, configurable all the way up to 1TB of storage. It wasn't that far out of the ballpark of what we currently had at the time, and that released back in September of last year. So it's actually been quite a while since that thing first came out, and I wasn't really thinking about it much after it came out because it really just sort of faded into the background. But as of a few days ago, we got some leaks and soft confirmation of the sequel to that new Zotac Zone handheld. And honestly, I think it's a little soon, but the justification for it primarily being that we've seen some pretty extensive, development and leaps in performance compared to the chipset that device originally came with, that justifies and necessitates the upgrade, because as it currently stands, the 8840U isn't terrible. It's functionally a Z1 Extreme with slightly newer architecture, but at its core, it's pretty much the same thing. Same GPU, same amount of cores. So for all intents and purposes, it's functionally a Z1 Extreme. And honestly, it's good enough for the vast majority of people. But we are starting to see a few games that are starting to struggle, Oblivion Remastered being one, but that's not necessarily because of it being a PC handled. It's also kind of it being an Unreal Engine 5 game that is poorly optimized on PC. Not saying it is like running poorly or terrible, but it could be aided by some, better optimization and overall some future bug fixes and whatnot that should help later down the line. But it is an example of a game that currently is not especially amazing on most PC handhelds. A more recent game on top of that, Doom: The Dark Ages, is proving to be a little bit of a struggle on some of these PC handhelds, as shown by some early performance data we have seen. But honestly, I don't necessarily think that is a huge deal right now. We're starting to see some games come out that don't necessarily run fantastic on these current crop of handhelds, but we still haven't fully seen the next generation of PC handhelds really come out yet. We still don't have a single device with the Z2 Extreme chipset, and the few devices we have with AMD's AI9 HX360 chips, I believe they're called, those don't really exist for the general consumer. They are mostly held in devices that are either crazy expensive or near impossible to get your hands on, like from Neo and GPD. So that makes this announcement of this new Zotac Zone handheld fairly interesting. From what we know so far, it is going to be using the brand new AMD Ryzen AI9 HX370. The OLED display is also returning, which is very nice to see. I'm seeing some conflicting discussion whether it's going to be 7 or 8 inches, but it's safe to assume it's going to be either of those two, and for me personally, I think somewhere in the middle makes the most amount of sense, like a 7-inch with 0 bezel opposed to an 8-inch with bezels, because on some devices like Legion Go, for example, that is quite a large handheld, but devices that have just sort of like an extended 7-inch that encompasses just having a very thin bezel, I think overall is a better size, being more of like a 7.5 or 7.8, feeling much better for a portable device than a whole 8 inches. It's almost like walking around with an iPad all the time. Not a great example, but you sort of get what I mean. It's just a little bit unwieldy, especially if you're like traveling a lot more with it, because you start entering the realm of like, this should just be a gaming laptop rather than a PC handheld at that point. Tangent aside, another thing that we learned that from an exact quote from Zotac Gaming in one of their press releases announcing a bunch of stuff that they're going to be talking about during Computex in a few days, straight up said, Zotac Zone handheld returns with an updated prototype variant powered by an AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370 APU running an all-new Manjaro Linux-based OS specifically designed for PC handhelds, which is really cool. If I remember correctly, I think SteamOS is Ubuntu-based, but I could be completely wrong. I'm not terribly great at Linux stuff, so I'm just not super deep in that knowledge, but it is relatively unique to see a device come out the gate with a Linux-based operating system, or I could be completely off the base with this one, and this is essentially code for it's coming with SteamOS, but I could also be completely wrong. The last time I heard somebody talk about a custom Manjaro-based Linux operating system designed for PC handhelds is the Orange Pi Neo, which is a device that's still not out yet. Compelling price for sure, but completely void of any concrete information about when and if this thing is ever coming out. I even talked to some of the developers and just engineers behind that device, and I've never actually gotten a concrete answer ever since I made a video about it a couple months ago, and I got an email saying, hey, just so you know, the device is coming out, and that sort of was it. I sent them a bunch of questions, and they never replied to any of them. So this Manjaro-based operating system for the new Zotac Zone could be either really, really interesting, or even SteamOS, or just something like Halo OS, or some other operating system like Bazite, which is incredibly popular with owners of RG Allies. Something that does concern me about this PC handheld is its price. I feel like if it's coming with the AI HX370, this device is going to probably end up being incredibly expensive, probably topping out close to $900 to $1,000, which frankly is a lot for a PC handheld. You can get a gaming laptop that will probably run better for the same price, which is really where I draw the line. For a PC handheld, I think the sweet spot is anywhere between $500 to $700. I think that is a pretty decent price range where you can accept the compromises the form factor gives you, rather than being a massive thing is actually frankly a downside at the higher price ranges. But with the OLED screen, honestly, I think this is going to end up being another RG Ally X situation where the device is going to be really, really amazing, really hard to recommend considering how expensive it is. I would love to hear what you guys think about this one. I know it's a short video this time around, but there really isn't much that we know about this device, and we will probably learn more in a few days during Computex. I would love to hear what you guys think about this though. Are you excited for a new Zotac Zone? Do you guys think it was a little early for a sequel? I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media coverage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.